Hi everyone, Erwin here to talk about my upcoming race, Ironman 70.3 Chattanooga. Thanks for joining me today. A lot to talk about regarding what a half Ironman is, along with my race plan and how I came up with that. So let's jump right in, and I'm standing so I could make this quick. So for those that don't know, a 70.3 or half Ironman consists of a 1.2 mile swim, 56-mile bike ride, and then a half marathon 13-mile run. With Chattanooga, it's a downstream swim, which is great, but because of that, they made the swim 1.4 miles. So that should make a interesting swim for me, given I'm not the best swimmer right now, and I'll show you why in the logs. Then we go to the 56-mile bike ride, which is one loop through Chattanooga, Tennessee. You start where you swim, you go all the way down, come up, and back. And so, from what I read, it's about 800 feet of climbing in total, and mainly rolling hills. So, nothing to worry about too much, and looking forward to that part for sure. Then there's the run, which is a 2.25 loop course. So you'll come out of transition and then just run along this course, do a second loop, and then finish. So should be mostly flat, given it's next to the river, and should be fun. So I've been doing races for a while. For those that know Athlinks, it's a great way to stalk people like me on what races they've done. Of course, I never do that for any of my competitors. I've been doing this for quite some time. I've done 2 full Ironmans and maybe over a dozen half Ironmans. And so during my glory days, I finished a half Ironman in 5 hours, 17 minutes, which was in the top 20th percentile. I've always been more of a sprinter since being in high school and middle school. I love to do short distances and play soccer. So out of all these races I've done, in terms of percentile, I've done pretty well in these Spartan races, those 3-4 mile running events with a lot of strength components. So I've been in the top 3% out of a couple thousand people. So if I really wanted to focus on my strengths, I would do more of these. But I thought, these long distance events complement me better, and I think I just enjoy doing triathlons as well versus stuff that involves being pretty strong. So that's me. And why Chattanooga? This was a race that reminded me quite a bit about Teri, because we did a sprint, or she did a sprint, and I did a Olympic distance triathlon in 2018, right after she was diagnosed with her first cancer. So this was after a nice practice swim the day before the race, and this is us after the race. As you can see, we were both pretty happy just to finish. Just remember it being a hot day, and that's what I expect on race day. And here's us eating some good food, and we always like to have a couple drinks, especially after a race. And so, so that's kind of why I'm doing this specific race. And you can read about it more on the blog if you're curious. Okay, great. So before you figure out a good time to finish a race in, you got to look at all the data from past races. And so, what's a good time? Well, if I look at endurancedata.com, you got to look at pretty much every race and see how everyone's done. And so, if I scroll down, I go to the men 40 to 44, not 35 to 39. And the total for the race for my age group is 6 hours and 3 minutes. And that's the average time. And that's what I'll use to come up with my goal times. The median times are a little bit faster, 5:55 for the median, but just so I could feel a little better, on how I do, I'm going to use the average time. So if I do better than the average, that'll be fantastic. Okay. So this is what I use to base just if what I'm trying to do is even reasonable. So now I'll go into Google Docs and I put in all the average times. Again, the 6:03 is the average for my age group. And these are my A goals. I want to try to swim in 45 minutes, about 6 minutes slower than average. I want to do with a T1 in 5 minutes, which is 2 minutes faster than the average. And it's because I've done so many races and I think I have my transitions dialed in pretty well. I want to bike at 3 hours. That's around 18.7 miles per hour. And I'll get into the details on how I came up with that in a little bit. I'll take 4 minutes to transition, which seems, I think, reasonable relative to the average. Here's the fun part, trying to run a 2 hours and 6 minute half marathon. I'll show you why that's very ambitious. And so if I could finish under 6 hours, that'll be fantastic. And most of you'll think like, oh, Erwin, you've done this a while. I'm sure you'll do fine. Well, let me try to prove you otherwise. Okay. So with Strava, I think one of the nice things is it tracks your fitness and freshness. And so just think of this is a relative number to how much training volume I'm putting in and how hard I am going with my training. So back in my glory days, I was in the hundreds. This is when I was doing, some of those races and, being in the top, 10th percentile at some of them, or even weighing in my age group. And so then, I got busy, and some of you guys know this is around where I met Teri, February 2017, and then just got busy and then just stopped really doing races. Then there was COVID, so no one was racing. And then I started picking stuff up. And so here I am with a fitness of 47 as of today, the 13th of May, about a week away from the race, a race on Sunday. So I'm carrying quite a bit of fatigue because as you do a lot more training like I've done in the last 3 months, you could see just been ramping and ramping and ramping. I'm carrying a lot of fatigue, so I gotta start to take it easy next few days so I get my legs ready and I'm not carrying a lot of soreness. So that's my Strava for fitness and freshness. Then I'll look at my training logs. So last week, what I would say is a big training week was about 7 hours worth of triathlon work. I did go to the gym and do some strength training, but that's excluded. The week before was about 7 hours, and then, a little bit, but earlier this year, there was very little training going on, less than an hour. And this is supposed to be where you really hit it hard, a month or two before the race. And so yeah, it's going to be an interesting one given I don't really have much fitness coming into this, but mentally I feel pretty good. So we'll see what happens. So let's start with the swim. So the swim, I think I'll be fine because I have a wetsuit and it's a downstream swim, but it's pretty embarrassing that, in the last month I've swam an hour and 18 minutes. And I promise I'll go swimming after this podcast recording. So stay tuned. But yeah, this is not much. I did get excited in February to really start committing to swimming with, these 1,000-yard swims every day. But yeah, not much to say about my swims. So to do a 45-minute swim is probably a bit ambitious, but it is what it is. It'll be fine. So in terms of pacing, this was my last swim that I did 1,400 yards. And this, the race is 1.4 miles or about 2,300 yards, something like that. So I'm pacing at like 2 minutes and 21 seconds per 100. That's pretty darn slow if you guys swim. And so, these were intervals with rest. So I know I'm not like going super hard if you look at my heart rate, but I think it'll be okay. Okay, so we gotta hurry up. It's already been 10 minutes. So, yeah, so this is again my plan. Swimming 6 minutes, 21 seconds under, or slower than the average, transitioning faster. And then now let's talk about the bike. So my biking has been not the most consistent as well. I've, you know, didn't do too much earlier this year, as you can see. Just took, sometimes 2 weeks off, but last few weeks I'm just trying to pick up the mileage, and biking has always been my strong suit. Even though I'm not really doing much on the tri bike, I've been mainly doing things on my road bike or my mountain bike, which is still a great workout. Here is what I'll race on, and this is a Trek Speed Concept 2.0. And it's a pretty fast bike. I'm really happy with it. It's a used frame I bought a couple of years ago because the bike I had before this, I crashed and messed up the fork and didn't want to fix it. So I took all the components off and put it on here. And so far, so good. And I just put on the disc yesterday. And, I didn't want to ride the disc because I've always been against people who are slow riding a disc wheel in a race. I'm like, that's ridiculous. You spend all this money on a bike and you're using a disc wheel. And, well, that's going to be me this coming weekend. And I might as well use it because I have it. And, oh, well. In terms of other equipment, since I've been doing this a while, I think I have pretty good equipment. I have a Roka wetsuit and a nice sleeve tri-suit that I've been using for a while. I got my Nike carbon insole running shoes I only use for racing and always seems to help. And yeah, I mean, nothing really that exciting on my equipment except I think overall, I think I should have an equipment advantage relative to most people. Okay, so back on the bike. So one thing I love to use is what's called best bike split. Pretty much helps me take all my numbers, shove it into this tool, and it could give me a recommended race plan depending on how hard or how easy I want to go. And so is this really necessary? Absolutely, because in a triathlon, if you overbike, you're going to pay for it because, and that tends to happen when you don't have good data, you're just guessing. And you could read more on this. I'm going to call what I'm doing a bit of cheating. And there's articles to show, what does this mean? And so I think in summary, with a power meter, you can really dial in what power you need to ride at. And just focus on that power number and sticking to it. And if you stick to the plan and your data is good, then you should be able to have a good run, and it'll be optimized so you don't under or overbike. So there's these charts that I don't want to get in the weeds about, but it tells you, this is an Ironman chart, but if you ride too hard, then it means you're screwed over. And if you ride too soft, then you're probably going to regret it and have a really fast run, but your overall time won't be as ideal. So you take all this data, and in summary, I want to ride at about 70 to 75% of my functional threshold power. And that's like the average power output you can do in an hour based on doing a test. And so what is that for me? Well, according to Strava, it's estimating my functional threshold power is 195. I didn't really do a proper test. I'm just going to take this data, and I think it's probably reasonable. It seems a little high, honestly, because I don't feel like I can hold that power for a whole hour, but oh well. So I take that Strava data. I also have to take in my weight. And so here's my weight graph since 2012. This is when I was racing pretty hard, and here I am now. Not so proud that this morning I weighed, or yesterday I weighed 175 pounds. That is a lot for my height. But that's okay because it must be all muscle, and that's all I need in the race. So I'm not going to worry about it. But if I do lose next, 5 pounds in next week, I'll take it. So yeah, now let's jump to the run. So running mileage has been really a disaster. And yeah, not much to say. The last month I ran almost a distance of the half marathon. And the longest run I've done this year was, let's see, 6.2 miles at 14 minutes a mile in January. So yeah, not good. And you take all this data, you shove it into Garmin's analysis, and Garmin thinks my race predictor for a half marathon is 12 minutes and 25 seconds per mile at 2 hours and 42 minutes. And that's just a straight half marathon. I think this is baloney. There's just no way I'm going to run that slow. I don't care what this watch says and the logs say, which is why I'm predicting that I'm going to run a 2:06 instead of a 2:42. And that's, a little bit over, that's like almost 10 minutes a mile. I don't know. I just feel like if I'm conservative on the bike, which is what I put 3 hours, I think take it easy. I should be able to run and get this thing done under 2 hours and 6 minutes, putting me at a finishing time of 6 hours. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. In case I don't make my A goals, let's talk about my B goals, which is a 6 hour and 15 minute finish. I think this is reasonable as well. 6 hours is going to be aggressive, but I think anywhere between 6 hours and 6 hours and 15 minutes is definitely achievable. And then my C goal, if everything goes to crap and, I lose my bike at the airport or something breaks and I got to go borrow a mountain bike and then blah, blah, blah. I'll hopefully make it past the swim cutoff and finish in 8 hours and 30 minutes, which just seems like a long time to race. So we'll see. We'll see. And yep, so that's the plan. And what else? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the blog and the podcast. To just click the subscribe button. I'm at 52 subscribers. So thank you all for your support. If you have any questions, let me know. You can also track me on Sunday, downloading the Ironman app, finding the race, and searching for me. So yeah, that's my plan. Thanks for watching, and looking forward to celebrating after the race. Goodbye.